Good evening, everybody. I'm Roger Sutherland, and this is my partner, Alex Books. And we are with the Guitar Gear Locker. And tonight is episode 12. And it's our pleasure to bring in Peter Dankelson, who is a guitarist, social media influencer, motivational speaker. He has an autobiography of how I learned to rock my life. He's also, I mean, if that wasn't enough, he's also in a band named after him, Pete's Diary, which is an independent Chicago rock trio with more than 800,000 social media followers. Oh, Pete, welcome, man. It's great having you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So I'll be honest. I kind of stumbled on you years ago, and I've been going back and forth with your PR people, and kind of told them some of the story. And I was born with a problem with my right shoulder and my arm, and I always whine to my wife like, I can't play this fast enough, and I actually play guitar, and we talk about this a lot on our channel about motivation for people, like how do they stay motivated, why do they play guitar, why do they play instruments, and some people do it as a form of therapy, physical and mental therapy.
Yeah.
So I ran across you on TikTok because, like I said, I'm an avid TikToker. I'm not, but I do spend a lot of time on TikTok. I'm told. And I swear I'm not making this up. I ran across you. This was in the early days of your channel.
Okay.
You were much, much younger at that point.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, I took the phone. My wife was on the couch, and I said, "Look at this. I need to quit complaining and just do it." So it's interesting how people, even younger people, can inspire old guys with things. And that's how I stumbled across you, and your channel has just gotten gigantic. So I call it a channel. It's a TikTok or whatever.
Page, channel.
Page.
It's all.
Yeah, I tried to get advice from my daughter. She couldn't tell me what it was either, but you have a gigantic following. So it's been fun and interesting and inspiring to just watch you over the years.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride. It's been pretty
So what got you into playing guitar? Well, actually, let me back up. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let's back up to the beginning. You have a condition called golden heart syndrome, which a lot of people probably haven't heard of. So can we go over that?
Yeah. So the condition I was born with is called golden heart syndrome. And golden heart, it can affect, it kind of varies really from person to person for how they're affected. But like in my case, I'm missing my left ear. Right. That's kind of like the main, thing that you see on the outside. But so that's where the bone anchored hearing aid comes in handy. That works great.
Right.
And then the right side, that all works. That's fully developed. It all works, right. So I'm missing my left ear, and then there's a bunch of internal stuff. I was born with a very small jaw, very small airway. That's kind of a big one. I have one kidney in the front instead of two in the back. I've had over 30 surgeries.
Wow.
So kind of lots of in and out of hospitals, especially when I was really young. There were a lot of big procedures when I was pretty little.
Right. And I mean, was it that they because I mean, obviously I've seen your channel, and you talked about your thumb, and that was something that I kind of clued in on. Was I think one of the first videos that I saw, you were talking about, I can't wrap my thumb, and I can't wrap my thumb either, and you were talking about ways that you overcome that. But how did that inspire you to start playing guitar, or did you just want to be a guitar player?
I just wanted to be a guitar player. Basically, that all started when our family moved from Michigan to Illinois when I was starting high school. So, graduated middle school, was going to go into high school. That's when we made the transition to Illinois. And basically, there's, of course, with moving, there's all of these new adjustments to new surroundings, new school, new everything, right? So music was a big way that kind of helped me ease into all of these new changes and adjustments.
Right.
And that really just started to be more rock and roll music is what I
Right.
gravitated towards. So
Right.
really, kind of really this time, almost, it was pretty much, I think, like late April of 2015 or 2016,
Right.
2016, because I've been playing for 8 years. So
Right.
basically, it all kind of boiled over to more out of curiosity of wanting to learn how to play guitar, like hearing Angus Young and
Right.
all Hendrix Slash, all of these guys. I'm like, that's so cool. Uh,
Yeah.
and really, that was kind of the thing that made me go, you know what? How do they do it? This seems kind of cool. Let's maybe try and learn how to play, or see what I could do. So I asked my dad, and he actually played when he was in high school. So he
Right.
had the PV amp, his tube screamer, and a Fender Music Master that he had when he played when he was younger.
Right.
So he pulls all of this out of storage, and there's a container with like books and all of this stuff that he still has. So I just got started on that. Went on YouTube and started looking up, like Seven Nation Army, Back in Black. Just kind of
Right.
started to get some of these riffs under my fingers, and I was hooked. I'm like, I want to keep learning more and more and more, and yeah, I've been obsessed ever since. It's
Right.
been, yeah, it's
Right.
been a going journey.
Was it like when you picked it up and started learning these songs for the first time? Was it
Yeah,
like, wow, this is magic? Because it was like
yeah,
that for me as a kid,
uh huh,
and like, oh wow, I can do this. Even picking up the guitar for the first
yeah,
time, it was kind of like this magical thing, and
yeah,
it's to he was talking about therapeutic and all, and for me, music has always been besides expressing myself and all
yeah,
that, it's therapeutic, no matter what
yep.
you're going through, it's to be able to have that to deal with whatever it is that you're dealing with at that moment in time, and
Mhm.
yeah, that's cool. So what was the first guitar that you started with?
So the first guitar was that Fender Music Master.
And with all the
Um,
kind of music. Okay, yeah,
I think
okay.
me and a buddy a while ago, I think we figured out it was a 1978. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Um,
So yeah, pretty cool starter guitar. But I mean, that was the
Right.
one that dad just had all these years. So yeah, that was a
Right.
pretty cool guitar to start on. But being the big ACDC fan I am, I'm like, I want an SG like Angus. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Christmas that year, I was surprised with the. It was kind of like it was a Gibson SG, but it was like one of the kind of tribute-ish models. So
Right.
Oh, okay.
it kind of and I still have it. It's the SG I have with the large guard on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it have, like, the shorter scale? Because I remember Gibson put out, his
Oh,
signature model, like a real it wasn't 24 3/4 scale, it
mhm.
was
I don't know.
smaller than, you
Yeah,
know?
well, I know the neck on like Angus's signature models are pretty small, and the SG that I use all the time, like the one that's on the album cover, the one I used in the studio, like the one I use live, like all the time, that one has a really small neck on it, and I'm half convinced that it's some kind of Angus model because the neck is so small, and Angus had a signature on that same year that that guitar was in production. So I'm like, let's wonder if some specs might have carried over or something like that. Because I'm like,
Right.
this neck is really small and it feels fantastic. So
Right.
Yeah.
maybe not, but I'm like,
Well, Alex, I think this will be one of our episodes where we don't bash Gibson, but we both love Gibson.
Yeah,
We
well,
just don't sound like we do
well,
sometimes. So, who was your biggest influence? I think you probably already said it,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
said a couple of them, but
Mhm.
I mean, how did that happen? I mean, obviously it's Angus Young, but
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
what gave that away? Yeah.
yeah, right.
Um, no, Angus is definitely the biggest influence and biggest inspiration. Um, I think it was just the fact, just his stage presence. I mean, he's probably the most one of, if not the most energetic, guitar players. The way he's running around, doing all, and the
Yeah,
riffs themselves as well. Stage
oh,
performance.
yeah.
I just the riffs. I mean, just how huge they sound. Um, I don't know, I guess everybody kind of has their own definition of heavy, but in some cases, some of those riffs have a pretty hefty weight to them, or like
Yeah.
riff raff, or kind of the swagger of like, some of these other tunes. It's like, yeah, just kind of the swagger and attitude in those riffs. I'm like, that's amazing. And the solos as well, with the vibrato and just the licks and all. Wow. And I mean, I'm still blown away by it. It's still kind of my favorite vibe and sound. I'm like, that's incredible.
Well, and it's interesting. We talk about this a lot on this show with other guests, how your generation, my daughter's the same age as, I think she's a year younger than you. She listens to the same stuff. She listens to some new stuff, but mostly old, like when I was a teenager, when Alex was a teenager. How do you get introduced to that?
Well, really,
Good parenting, I would assume, right?
That's exactly what it was.
Right.
I mean, I remember even before I picked up the guitar, when we were still living in Michigan. I remember one time Dad and I were driving home from somewhere, and Eruption came on the radio, and he's like, this is something that I heard when I was growing up. This was a pretty big, guitar piece, and he just cranks it. I mean, I can't remember how old I was, maybe 11, 12, something like that. But hearing it in the car, I didn't know Eddie's significance, the significance of Eruption, and how, what Eddie's guitar playing did, with Eruption and that whole first Van Halen record. But when I heard Eruption, I understood, like, a non-musician at the time, a non-guitar player. I went, wow, that's whoa, what is that?
Yeah, what is that? Yeah,
pretty insane. So, but to me, looking back at it now as a guitar player and understanding, how incredible Eddie was, I'm like, kind of looking at Eruption now, I'm like, wow, from the perspective and knowledge of nothing that I had then, and even then understanding the significance and how cool that was, I'm like, it's kind of cool to look back at.
I think the really cool part is, Alex, you could probably remember when it came out. I know I can.
Yeah.
And we all
everybody got their Eruption story.
I mean, when it first came out, we had that same reaction to it that you have all of these years later.
I feel like everybody has their Eruption moment.
Right.
And on so many angles, Eddie, besides his guitar playing, his songwriting,
absolutely,
what he did with pickups, wiring pickups with amps, and he did so much, for rock guitar.
Right. Now, do you listen to any of today's music?
I'm kind of introduced to most of it because of TikTok, and I've been scrolling on the For You page for too long.
Right. I did see you're a fan of Dirty Honey, right?
Oh yeah, I love those guys. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Dirty Honey.
Yeah.
But that's because they sound a lot like that music I grew up with.
Yep. Actually, I got to jam with those guys.
I saw that.
Yeah.
How was that, man?
That is a really funny story. This is great. So, I mean, I've seen them. The first time I saw them was at like a small club in Milwaukee in 2020, like before the pandemic hit. It was right before that, right? So, and they just had the one EP out. I think this was their first headlining tour, where they were kind of playing clubs, and all that. But anyway, I saw them in Milwaukee, and I've seen them anytime they're close by. I saw them open up for the Crows, the Black Crows, and all of this. But a few years ago, they were playing locally, and I managed to squeeze my way up front row, and I'm watching. John sees me, waves hello, and I'm like, cool, thanks, John. And towards the end of the set, or the end of the night, a roadie, or tech or roadie comes up and hands me a piece of paper. It says, "Yo, Pete, do you know how to play Highway to Hell?" And I went, "Well, I'm like the biggest AC/DC fan on the planet," so I'm like, well,
maybe a little.
I'm like, yeah, I give the roadie a thumbs up, and a couple minutes later, it's like, "Hey, Peter, where are you?" And I'm like, hey, he's like, "Come on up here." So completely unplanned, unrehearsed.
That's crazy.
I popped up with Dirty Honey and jammed Highway to Hell. It's on YouTube. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've seen it.
All of it. I'm like, here we go. thrown to the lions, or
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay,
You know, I mean,
great.
that shapes you a lot as a player too, because I don't know how many times over the years where I would be on tour and the band's like, "Hey, why don't you come up and guest on this song tonight?" And I'm just like, and but I usually never say no, and I just go out there and it's a
Yeah, well,
blast.
it's
And
definitely terrifying, but I mean,
yeah,
it's like, it's for me, it's AC/DC. I'm like, that's like so ingrained in my soul. I'm like, I know this song like the back of my hand. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
yeah,
this is one I know I can just go up there and just have fun.
Right, right.
yeah,
That is an awesome story.
Yeah.
And
It was
now, I mean, thinking back, and we'll get to the gear because we're just
yeah.
big gear nerds,
Yep.
man. So,
Yep.
but we kind of want to build up to it because I'm sure you're getting introduced to a new audience tonight that may not have seen you because they're not a teenager at heart like me or immature, whatever you want to call me, and an avid TikToker. But man, when you were starting, on this journey a few years ago,
Yep.
did you ever imagine that, I mean, you'd have all these followers, you'd have this popularity, you'd be on the stage with all these big bands pretty much.
No, it's been pretty crazy. Just
Yeah.
kind of, some of the people that I've gotten to meet or, shake hands with or jam,
Right.
or have guests on our record, I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty wild. All the people that I've crossed paths with, or some people that have heard of me, or you're like, hey, I
right.
just talked with such and such about you. And I'm like, huh? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
pretty sure.
We had that, we kinda chat, with the guests sometimes offline afterwards, and, we had somebody on, last week or the week before, and he knew
Mhm.
who you were.
Oh,
So,
cool.
yeah, 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 I mean, your popularity is out there, that's for sure. So, I guess we can get down to the brass tacks. Let's talk about your guitars and your rigs. I know
All right.
there's the
There's
FG, but
quite a few.
I've seen a lot of other ones.
Hmm. Yeah, there's
So,
quite.
let's go over, like, what we know your favorite is, an SG.
Uh-huh.
What else? I You have a new one that just came in,
Uh-huh. Yeah, that was an Epiphone Firebird.
right?
It's a pretty fun guitar.
Yeah,
Basically, uh, the interest with the Firebird. We were in Nashville a few weeks ago, just visiting the area and reconnecting with some people and kind of checking the place out. And of course, went to the Gibson garage, and I'm like, okay, this is great, with all these guitars here. And I'm like, what's something, it's like you can look for the usual suspects like an ST or Les Paul and sit down
right,
and try them out. But I'm like, okay, what's something that I haven't spent a lot of time with that I'd really like to try out? And I'm like, you don't see Firebirds in stores anywhere. They're incredibly hard to find. So I'm like, and I've been really interested in trying them out because yeah,
mhm,
they're so hard to find. So Epiphone just at the kind of custom shop, um, or inspired by custom shop,
right,
kind of those custom colors and whatnot. So I got to sit down and mess with them, and they sounded great. And I got, I played like an SG and compared the two sonically, and just really tried to get a
mhm,
vibe for the sound and understand like the sound of the Firebird because it's so unique, it's so different from anything else. So like, where
right,
does this sit with like a Telecaster, or P90 or whatnot?
right,
So kind of
mhm.
sat down with it, really tried to understand what it did sonically and whatnot. I'm like, okay, I understand it, and I really like it.
right, right.
So, I instantly thought in my head like, oh, I could see where this would fit in with like a bunch of stuff that I,
Yeah,
playing. So, um, uh, so okay, so I messed with those for a little bit, and I'm like, okay, pretty interested in it. But Gibson doesn't make them anymore, so that was kind of like, okay, you can't really order a Gibson or anything like that.
right.
Uh, and with the kind of custom shop inspired Epiphone Firebirds, the necks were massive. They were
Wow.
very, very large, and I'm like, I need something smaller. So I saw that they had kind of the standard, the Sunburst, which is my personal favorite vibe
Right,
with those
right.
guitars anyway.
Mhm.
And I heard that the neck was a lot slimmer too, so I'm like, okay, I
Right.
think I'll just order this. And I did, and it came in, and as soon as I picked up the neck, I went, I made the right choice,
Yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah.
this is great, and it's a really fun guitar. I've been having a lot of fun jamming on it.
Now that one, that had one pickup, right?
This Firebird, it has two.
It has two.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe it's
they
another
do
one.
make they do make the one. They do make
Oh
the
yeah.
one.
I think I maybe confused that with another one that I saw that
Yeah,
had one in it. I thought that was odd to see one in a Firebird.
yeah. They do make like they have like the rat tail
Yeah,
with the one like bridge pickup, kind of junior-esque, but like with the
yeah,
Firebird, like
right,
Clapton used in Cream. I know.
right.
How about the weight on the Firebird? Because I know sometimes you can get one that's pretty lightweight,
Mhm.
or
It
something can be heavy.
that's pretty light. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
No, Firebird's great guitars, but the SG, I have to
mhm.
say is one of the for me is I've owned quite a few SGs in my time, and
Yep.
one of the greatest guitars I think ever made. Probably
They're,
one of the easiest guitars to play too.
that's
The
what-
easy access, and yeah,
yeah.
and the tone is something unique in itself
Mhm.
too.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
yeah, the SG, of course, it's the Angus thing. Seeing Angus with one, I'm like, that thing is cool.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Really, I mean, I've tried Les Pauls. I have a Les Paul and I love it, but I mean, with the band, sometimes we do like 3 hour shows, and it's like I can't.
Oh yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I'm like that
Yeah.
that is a no go. Like,
They sound
I,
great, but play a
oh,
long
they're
set, yeah.
amazing. And I mean, I love so many Les Paul players. Like Slash is one of my all time biggest inspirations and favorites. And I mean, you got like
Yeah.
Jimmy Page, Ace Frehley, Paul Kossoff, Gary Moore. I mean, the list goes on and on. But yeah,
right,
with the Les Paul, I'm like, if we're doing like a 45-minute set and I have nothing crazy going on the next day, okay, maybe I'll take it out. Or like, I did a guest appearance recently, and I'm like, okay, the Les Paul would be perfect for this song.
right.
Yeah.
We could go out and jam on that. So it's like, yeah, the Les Paul. I'm like, okay, it'll have its moment to shine.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have any, what I have to say this because if you look behind Alex, you'll notice we can hardly see him this week, but do you have any V's yet?
I do, I do,
Do you really?
What?
I did
I
not know
do.
that.
It's one of the they came out last year. It's the Epiphone Karina V.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
V's,
Ah,
yeah. Honestly, it's the lightest guitar I have.
Oh,
It is
yeah.
insanely light. It's shocking how light it is. I couldn't believe it.
right,
I have to have it kind of high up though, because I'm really small, so I'm like the neck's kind of big, so it could be a bit tricky sometimes. But
right,
it's a really cool guitar. Yeah, I dig it. I dig it a lot.
right.
Yeah.
I had to say that for last week, Alex had his whole line of, well, they're still back there. We just can't see them as
Yeah,
well this
yeah,
week. They're all lined up. It was a beautiful display.
nice,
So he has some really nice ESP guitars.
cool.
So do you find the V, a little uncomfortable? Because I hear people say, "Oh, they're so uncomfortable," and for me, they're super comfortable. Even
Yep,
even in the studio. Like my
yep.
other guitar player, he plays them live, but he won't play them in the studio. And for me,
Mhm.
it's just kind of position it a certain way, and
Yeah,
it's
well,
just
if you play with the
easy access to the neck.
yeah, if you play it classical style, it feels great.
Yeah.
I'm like, once
Hmm.
I said that, I mean, if you're gonna kind of have it, this way, you have this whole, section here. It's like, yeah, that wouldn't work. But if you,
Yeah.
kind of a classical kind of playing position, it works just fine. Maybe
Hmm.
it's a little weird to get used to, but it's not that, crazy. So it's like once you sit down with it like that, it's like, oh, okay, cool.
Right.
Do you find sometimes with, like say you brought up the Firebird, the SG, the Les Paul, the V. Do you find it that you write differently or play differently when you pick up the guitars?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's why I have so many.
Yeah, yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
that-
I
uh,
mean, but I think it's a great thing too
yeah.
because sometimes if you're something's just not coming to you and you're like, well, you know what, let me pick this thing up and see what happens,
No,
and
yeah,
and you
it
just
really
fall in
is.
love with it, and
Yeah.
it comes out of you.
Mhm.
Nice.
Yeah,
Now, when you all, Alex, we talk a lot, of course, but I hear you say that. Now, what does that? I mean, and I say this. So, Pete, I have a repair shop, and I like to
Mhm.
pick guitar players' brains also to kind of make me better at what I do.
Mhm.
When you all are talking about that, and we've talked about it several times, like what do you all mean? Like it makes you play differently, write differently, things like that. I understand different guitars will make you play different
Yeah.
action and things like that.
Yep.
But exactly like describe that.
Well, I mean, the sound, I mean, each guitar really does kind of have their own voice, right? So,
Right.
like, I have a SG Junior, the P90's definitely got its own vibe.
Right.
And, it's funny too, because a lot of the times I'll think of like, the guitar heroes that played those guitars and that I've been inspired by. Like, if I'm playing something and I'm like, I'm going to do like a blues thing or go out with like a, jam at like a blues club or something or sit in. I'll take, of course, like I have an ES339. I'm like, I could
Yeah.
take that out and jam on that. Or again, you could be like, do I want to take like the Strat, for Stevie Ray, do I want to channel some Stevie tonight, for my own thing or whatnot. Or, even in like in our band with like the rock context, it's like,
Right.
With the hollow body, you could kind of channel some Alex Lifeson vibes or, be inspired by that or something like that.
Right.
Or like the Les Paul if you want to go full Slash or, So, I mean,
Yeah.
they kind of have their own vibes there a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, they all kind of have their own voice too that I think of and I'm like, okay, if we're going to go do, this kind of thing, this guitar would definitely lend itself well to this song. Or like if I'm going to sit in with a band for a song, I'll be like, okay, I'll play the song at home and I'll go, what would be a good fit for what's going on with this song, and then take that.
Right.
Mhm.
I I've seen a lot of videos where you talk about we're big geeks, like we said, like into pedals, into
Mhm.
effects, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like you're as geeky as we are. It sounds like you're he's like an older guy. We've had some guys on here that are like, I just want to plug in and make that thing sound as dirty and raunchy as it can.
Pretty
So
much. Yeah.
it sounds like that's where you are.
That's pretty much it. Like I love this amp to death. It's it's why am I blanking on it? The Studio Vintage
Right.
from Marshall. So the 20-watt plexi.
Mhm.
I'm like, I've been eyeing it for a long time. I'm like, I know how great that thing sounds. And I'm like, it's so expensive. I'm like, should I do it? Should I do it? It's like, okay. So,
You got it.
are we back? I don't know what
Oh
happened.
yeah, you're good.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay,
You're good.
that's kind of like, okay, anyway. But with the amp, it was, I'm like, okay, pull the trigger on it. It shows up and I'm like, oh, it's way louder than I thought. And I can't turn it down. So I got an attenuator, and now I could use it at home. And
Right.
but I mean, it's that rock and roll sound, the
Yeah.
AC. It's the
Mhm.
70s and 60s sound. I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing is amazing. And Marshall sent me the Blues Breaker and Governor reissue pedals when they did those last year to
Right.
kind of help, release them on, or promote them on release day. And the Governor, I pretty much just use that to help push the amp more because some of the
Yeah.
stuff we do, I need a bit more gain to help out with that.
Right.
And I just have a wireless that's also my tuner, and it's pretty much it. So it's just really,
Wow.
yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
For a guy your age, you're like an old soul, man.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, which is cool.
It's a very old school approach. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
minimalist. Like I don't want to make this any more complicated than it needs to be.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Like
Alex.
I could barely focus on, playing as much as this. I'm like, we just need to just, focus on the
Yeah.
hand and maybe a little bit of what's going on here. And
Yeah.
put on
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
It's more of like a few things straight into the amp, and
Mhm.
once things get too complicated, even with certain gear too, like
Oh
there's
yeah.
so much out
Yeah.
there today. I mean, it's amazing and all, but for
Uh-huh.
me, it's just like it's too much for me. I just need something simple that I can plug in. I can get what I want out of it, and that's it. And in the end of the day, it's in the fingers, really. It's
It
like
really
all that
is.
other,
Yeah.
it was great, but you got to have fingers that can talk, and
Mhm. Well, it's been
and that's where the real
yeah.
tone is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, it really kind of hits home with tone is in the fingers. Like when we got our album back and, we got the final, mastered versions of them. And, I wanted to try and like, look at some of the licks I was doing or what was going on some of the songs. And I'm, kind of not relearning. I don't know if relearning is the right word, but just, kind of playing along a little bit, making sure some parts, aren't good for when we play them live or whatever changed from with the final version. And I'm playing along and I'm like, it really, I'm playing through like a totally different rig from what was in the studio. And I'm like, it's still
like it sounds like me, right?
it sounds like me for better.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you know what? And I think that's most important is identity. You could be the fastest guy on the block, but it really doesn't mean anything.
Yep.
At the end of the day, it's just about the feeling and the playing and your identity, and
that was I mean that was the fun part about like coming up with guitar solos on this album. It's like, kind of like for me, what I noticed about what I did with all these songs, I play over the changes. It's not just like a full, long, like it's like all of the licks that I do are connected back to what the rhythm chords are doing. So they all kind of weave in and out and kind of have this cool melodic thing going on. So I'm pretty proud of how I approached, with solos and made sure they flowed with the song and kept the vibe.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Some songs
serving the song. You serve the song, and that's what it's about. Yeah.
Right. Well,
awesome,
I think
man.
sometimes you can get too in the weeds, and we talk about it all the time, and I'm pretty basic, and I think customers that come in here find it, I think surprising that I don't really care a lot. I have one amp that I like. It's an orange amp, and I have a fractal because I wanted to try it out. I want to be aware of them.
Yeah.
But if it gets into dial in the fractal, I'm not interested at all. And I think people find that interesting because I wind pickups and I get it. I'm into, making different sounds with guitars and things like that.
Yep.
But I just don't care about what I plug into, and as long as it just sounds good. So, and of course, I'm not out playing on stage like you guys are either. I'm behind the scenes, kind of wrenching on the guitars and making the things. But that you can get in those rabbit holes, and I know a lot of people that do, and they're really, really good at it.
Yep.
I'm not.
Yeah, I'm the same way too. It's just
I'm not. It sounds like you two both are of the same school. Like, I just want to plug that guitar into that rig and sound good and raise hell.
I mean, that's really it. Just plug a guitar into a really loud amp and let's go. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're dying to get it setting next to your album. I know you all just pressed it.
Yeah.
And it's getting released.
Yeah.
Nice. I didn't want to forget it. It's interesting, and it's even interesting the way that they're doing this release is they're releasing it on vinyl. They're releasing it on CDs. They're not just going the new route of music, I guess. They're, you all are kind of keeping it old school, which is really cool.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked that we got to do vinyl and all that. We just picked it up. We just picked up the vinyl last week, and I mean, getting the chance to pick up, and see the cover, blown up for the first time, and getting look at the back and read, the credits, and see the kind of Polaroid kind of inspired shots from live shots. I'm like, oh, this is so cool, and it's pretty fun.
It's rewarding, right? After you've done a record, you put all that hard work into something, and you're just
it's super rewarding.
Like, here it is, and
yeah. So actually having like the physical thing to hold, it's like it's real. This is great. It's so cool. Yeah.
What made you? I mean, it seems like you're pretty adamant that it goes on vinyl and CDs. At least that's the way I got it by watching you describe it. What's behind that? Is it just traditional?
I mean, it's kind of traditional. You want to offer those options for people to check it out. I mean, I guess vinyls had like a pretty big comeback as well, with a lot of people.
Yes.
So I'm like, it's like people, would definitely be interested in buying it and all of that. So I'm like, okay, and I mean that too. But I mean, just, again, just there's that cool factor of having that physical product and being able to offer to people, and CDs as well. We have a CD that we'll be doing. It's pretty cool. I mean, some bands go the extra mile and do like, I don't even know what they're called,
Yeah, right.
8 track.
8 track.
8 tracks. Oh, geez.
I think Cheap Trick did that a few years back. They did like some kind of like
Some newer bands
Cheap
are doing it now.
8-track version, you know. I was like, I thought that was cool, you
Yeah.
know.
Do they
Like,
still make players that you can play those on?
I guess you can find the old ones, you know.
I guess you would have to, right? Gee, so let's talk a little bit about the band. We'll give you the floor for a minute. Tell us about it.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're so the band is Peach Diary. We're a hard rock trio. We're based in Chicago. We pretty much been doing a bunch of local shows. So I'm, the guitar player in the band.
Right.
Mac is the lead singer and bass player, and then we got Ryan on drums. And
Right.
yeah, we're hard rock three-piece, and it's been pretty fun.
Right.
Oh
And
yeah.
you all are doing a combination of originals and covers, right?
Oh
It
yeah,
looks like you have a good amount. Well, of course you have the album.
yeah.
I was looking at your set list that's posted online.
Mhm.
Who's doing the writing?
Like for the album or?
For your songs for the
Oh,
album.
okay. Well, for this record, what we did, we got with a producer, Keith Nelson from who played in Buck Cherry. I mean, co-founded,
Right.
the guitar
Mhm.
player in Buck Cherry.
Right.
And that was, we got that connection from a good friend of ours. And so once the introductions were made, Mac and I went out to California and wrote the first 5 songs for the record with Keith. And it's like, this is great. And, we did the demos and everything, and we did like 5 songs in 5 days, so it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
and Keith helped like mock up the drums and everything too, so when we went back and got the demos, Ryan could listen to them and figure them out, and we start jamming together, and then start playing them live. And then we did another trip in the summer, and then in October and November we all went out and recorded the whole record.
Right. Man, that's
Oh,
exciting stuff.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah. It was a
Yeah, yeah.
experience.
kind of old school too. 5 songs in 5 days. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it went by
And
really quick. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
sometimes you wind up, just chasing what you did in
Mhm.
in the beginning, first take sometimes,
Yeah. Well,
and to talk about the old days of all the music that you like from the, the 60s and 70s. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the way those records were done,
Yeah.
this record, the Black Sabbath first record, I think that was done in
Yeah,
2
that's
days.
right.
And
Was it even a few days? Wasn't it?
2 days, yeah. I think the
Oh,
first day they
so
recorded
quick.
it,
Yeah.
second day mix, so
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I mean, the first Zeppelin record too, wasn't that done?
yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to be a good player, well rehearsed,
Uh-huh.
and know your
That's
craft to
World
get in there.
rehearsal is the big thing. Yeah. We made sure
Yeah.
before we went out, we ran the album top to bottom. We listened to the demo,
Mhm.
especially me. I'm like, if they mess up, okay, that's on them. I'm like, I want to make sure what I bring to the, when it's my turn to do guitar solos and track rhythm, I'm like, I want to make sure I'm as prepared as can be and ready to go. And,
Mhm. Yep.
we'll put
Yep.
in, put in some good work. And, of course, things
Yeah.
change on the fly. And, Keith and I worked on, oh, hey, let's actually, okay, so I know this is what it is on the demo, but actually this would kind of work better here. And, we
Yeah.
kind of,
Right.
and, I mean, it was fun. Just, yeah, it was a really cool experience.
So Peter, I'm curious, a
Mhm.
little off subject in regards to recording and gear
Yeah.
and stuff, but I'm a huge AC/DC fan since I
Yep.
was a kid, and I'm curious, do you have a favorite AC/DC record?
Oh, Power Edge, for sure.
Mine as well, my man.
That seems to be a common.
Wow, yeah, that is just
common thread.
perfection. The attitude, everything on that. I
Oh my
mean,
God, it's amazing.
there's really not a bad AC/DC record, but Power Edge is just wow,
Yeah.
you know,
No,
and
I got
Bond.
to see them. I got to see them at the
Oh,
Power Festival. They played on my
oh,
birthday.
wow.
Um,
That's
That's
it
awesome,
was.
man.
Oh my God, it was one of the best days of my life. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe I'm exaggerating. But you know what? No, that was one of the best days of my
yeah.
life.
Yeah, that is awesome.
When I picked up the guitar, AC/DC were finishing up the Rocker Bus tour, and that's when Axl Rose, was doing all that. And then,
Mhm.
they hadn't played since, and then it was just tragedy, with Malcolm passing a year later, and it's just kind of like, when are they going to come back? And then in 2020, the new record, and it's just like, this is awesome. Shot in the Dark, the first single from the record came out on that.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is great.
It's a great album. It really is.
Fantastic. And then when we were on vacation, and it was announced that, hey, they're going to be playing the Power Trip Festival. They're coming back. They're playing their first show in 7 years. And look at the date, and I'm like, no. I'm like, they're playing on October 7th, which is my birthday. So I'm like, the first comeback show, and I'm like, okay. And I'm like, Dad, and Dad's as big of a fan as I am. So we're like,
yeah.
So we got the tickets, and it was incredible. I mean, getting to see Angus live for the first time was insane. Getting to hear him with my one, I mean, it was as loud and as heavenly as you would expect it. And the set list, oh my God, this list was incredible. They opened with "If You Want Blood."
Wow.
Yeah, no, they weren't messing around with the set. They played "Stiff Upper Lip," which is like a fun hidden gem. They played They played Riff Raff, which is like my all-time favorite song. They never played it with Brian. I think they did in like a studio thing, but like never live. So when I hear the intro chords, me and Dad just went, oh my God, like they're playing Riff Raff. We still joke with each other. We're like, hey, Dad, they played Riff Raff. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
they had a different drummer too, right? Well, I mean, Phil Rudd wasn't playing drums; it was somebody else, right?
No, Phil wasn't playing. But Matt was incredible. Like he nailed Phil's swing. He did such a great job. It was
and Malcolm's nephew, I think, is on guitar.
Yeah, Stevie Young was there. Yeah, and Cliff was there as well. He came out of retirement for that, but for the European tour, they got Chris Chaney from Jane's Addiction.
Okay.
To go in for that role to take Cliff's place. So looks like they're ready.
Okay.
I'm sure they're rehearsing right now for the European tour. But no, the set list was incredible. Getting to hear Angus live and see him do his "Let There Be Rock" solo and just hear him play.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Just to see him at his age too, just run around. Nothing.
Really funny. Yeah. It was really funny. From the screens, I couldn't really, because we were kind of far back, I could see glimpses of him running around, but I couldn't really see him. And a couple songs in, I'm like, that can't be right. I'm like, his hair's white.
It happens.
I guess he's been dyeing his hair all these years, but I guess for this, he's like, I'm done. He's like,
yeah. He's like, screw it. Yeah.
I'm just cracking. I'm like, a couple of songs, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Angus Young. I'm like, hang on. His hair's white,
Yeah.
He's rocking the silver look, He's
it happens to the best of us.
Yeah. I'm just cracking up. All right. I'm like, go for it, Angus. Now you're like a wizard,
Oh, and you'll never forget that for the rest of your life, I'm sure,
Oh my God. It was amazing. I'm like, and the set list, I mean, it was as perfect as could be. I'm like, all the hits, they played along with "Stiff Upper Lip," Riff Raff. I mean, like it was it was the perfect blend of what you would want to hear, and some deep cuts for the diehards. It was a great set list for everybody. It was
there's one song they never play, and it's probably one of the more obscure songs, mellower songs, is "Ride On."
Oh,
I've never heard them do that. And that would be one that I'd be like, wow, they're playing that,
Yeah. That would be cool if they did that. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is one video of them playing it on YouTube, from a show. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's it. It's just the one show.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was your first concert?
My first concert. I can't remember. You know what? Kind of. Well, probably because I was so young. But,
Right.
But let's see. How old would I have been? Well, I guess I would have been maybe. It's kind of an interesting story, but long story short, our family's been involved with a charity for years called Children's Craniofacial Association, and really for me, it's like a family. Like I've grown up with this charity and all the families there. And but one of the someone who's been involved with it kind of in the early, really from the beginning was Cher.
Really?
Hmm. And when I was really young, uh, I don't remember. I don't remember the first time, but we went to her show, I guess somewhere in Detroit, and there's
Right.
photos of me. I was super young, but there's photos of myself, mom, and dad with Cher. And
Right.
then quite a few years later, she came back to Detroit, and I think like 2014, and me and a couple other families from CCA, or the
Right.
organization that we've been with, we were invited as guests to Cher's show, and
Right.
we got to meet her backstage. And the opening act for that show was Pat Benatar.
Oh,
Oh
really?
wow,
So there, I
wow,
guess
that's awesome.
there's another musical moment of watching a great guitar player, with
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Neil. And I mean, we were like pretty much front row. So I mean,
Yeah.
I think that might have been definitely a big moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That is
Wow, that's
cool. Man, some of the things that it's interesting, and I know how you feel, and I'll put a link up to the charity. I'm the
Mhm.
same way about Easter seals. I think
Mhm.
when you go through something, that was from birth,
Yep.
there are agencies out there. Your parents probably got a lot of help from them. I know my
Yeah.
parents did from
Yes.
Easter seals. They're both great organizations,
Yeah.
and it's good that you're still supporting them too.
Oh, I mean, they truly are family. I mean, I've grown up with all of these, all of these people, and yeah, I mean, they're support network, and you know,
Right,
great
right,
because I mean, siblings have each other, parents can connect with each other, and it
right.
is a big support network.
Right, right. And like I said, I'll throw a link up, when this airs,
Mhm.
so people know about it. Maybe they can donate time or what have you.
Mhm.
Um, there was something else I was going to ask you, and it slipped my mind because I'm getting old. Oh, man, at the beginning, I talked about all the stuff that you do. Man, how do you squeeze all that in? You're doing speaking,
Mhm.
writing, songwriting,
Mhm.
and I know the person I was dealing with, I don't know if you wanna say who that was, I know they're very busy too.
Yeah,
You're keeping them busy.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um,
And how do you squeeze it all in?
um, I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of like, I mean, it really is kind of taking one thing at a time. I mean, the
Yeah,
speakings, they kind of, some of them, you can have a few a week, and then you might not have one for months.
right,
Uh,
right,
we had a couple a few weeks ago because it was Writers Week, around here, where, I mean, I had it in high school where, like, different authors and speakers
right,
would come in and kind of talk about
right,
what they're doing. So Writers Week, it's like perfect fit with the music and my story and all that. So I went in and talked to some students then. Uh,
right,
and the shows are definitely the big thing, especially with summer coming around now. Shows are going
right,
to start ramping up and all of that. We're going to be doing some traveling this summer too, so
right.
be fun.
How far outside of Chicago are you all traveling now?
We're going to be traveling to New York in June, so that's
Really?
fun. Yeah, uh,
Nice.
for the album, yeah. So we'll be in New York when the album comes out. We'll be playing the Triad Theater, June 14th and 15th. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to that. That's going to be pretty cool. It's kind of our
Yep.
first big excursion out of Chicago.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, that's awesome.
I see big things on the horizon, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping that we can play with more bands and meet some more people, and just
Yeah,
for me, I just want to keep playing live. I want to get more shows. I love
right.
playing live. For me, it's like the studio and all this stuff is great, but I'm like playing live. That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah. Nothing beats that.
it's the
50
best.
or 60
Yeah.
minutes on stage, and all the stuff in between could be stressful sometimes, but
Oh
it's like once you get on stage, it's like, all right, this is why I'm here.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Well,
awesome. Peter, you have a really inspiring story, and I've had my even physical issues and things like
Mhm.
that, surgeries in the last couple of years,
Yep.
and and for me, it was just kind of the will to do whatever I had to do to overcome these things so I can play, because I just can't see my life without it, and so your story is extremely inspiring, and and music and art and all that stuff it's a positive force, and
Mhm.
it gives a lot of people hope, and by you going out and doing what you're doing, I think that's one of the most important things is you are you know uh per, you're it's a positive story and speaking a positive message, I think,
Mhm.
about overcoming things, and finding some happiness, and
Mhm.
spreading that for people, and I think that's really it's awesome. It's amazing. It's just sitting here talking to you and listening to you, I can tell you're a happy guy, and you love what you do, and that's an amazing thing in itself, because a lot of people they don't like what they do in their lives, and for you to do that, it's a blessing, and I think I commend you, for everything you've done, and that you're doing now. I think it's awesome. It's really inspiring, and yeah, I just you're a young guy, and you've got a lot ahead of you, and I could see you doing some amazing things, and I'm curious to see where your musical journey will be in the next 10 years, and where you'll
Yeah,
take it.
yeah. I mean, it's
And
already been.
that's an amazing thing, just
Yeah.
to be, to see, like, what am I gonna do next? And
Mhm.
always trying to outdo what you did in the past,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's exciting, man. It's awesome.
It is
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen next. What's gonna happen with like a next album, and hopefully we'll be able to tour. It's like what is next?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So this New York trip, is this your first time playing New York?
Yeah,
First
yeah.
time?
This is the
Oh,
furthest
wow.
we've really traveled was like Indiana a couple of years ago. We played at Sweetwater.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
you'll love New York. It's gonna be
I'm excited. I've
amazing.
been to New York. Well, okay, I like drove through it once, but never like spent time on
Yeah.
it. So I'm looking forward to just kind of being in New York, and yeah, getting to play there. Hopefully some people will come on out and you know attend the show, and well, yeah, the album will come out when we're there. So it'll be a lot
Okay.
of we'll be fired up for sure.
right,
Yeah.
right. Do you see your so you're a gigantic presence on TikTok. Do you see that translating into the music, like fans coming out because of the TikTok?
Yeah, yeah,
I
it is
bet.
pretty. I mean, it's funny because I think a lot of the time it really happens in music stores more than anything else.
Right,
Yeah, it's like it could be like I don't know, you could be at like you know a big sporting event or whatnot, and maybe one person goes hey, but at a concert it's more like 10 or 15 that go hey, you're that
right,
good player. Yeah.
right.
So yeah, music stores, concerts, yeah, it's definitely that
Yeah,
that community.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, hopefully when he's on tour, which if he wants to know what being on tour is like, he should go back and look at Spencer's episode of what was it? Drive 10 hours to set in a van for 10 hours to
Oh,
perform for an hour.
play for an hour. Yeah.
Yeah, it was hilarious to hear the way he described it. I said, "Wow, that's nothing like I would have imagined."
Oh yeah,
Um,
no, touring's
but when you're on
As
your
we
big
always
tour,
joke, living the dream. You know?
but we
Yeah.
and that's kind of what we try to make this channel is,
Mhm.
especially Alex has a lot of contacts and he's brought them in here. They've all been really great,
Mhm.
and it's really cool to sit here and listen. We try to make it like when they're out on tour and just kind of shooting the bull on the bus, and
Yeah,
you get to be a part of that conversation.
yeah, yeah.
We try to make it like that. This has been more interview because,
Mhm.
we're trying to get to know you and get people to know you, but,
Yeah,
we also like to just have conversations, because it's
yeah.
cool. I
No,
mean,
it is a lot of fun, and I'm sure
Yeah.
for the guys on tour with the 10 plus hours of traveling in a bus all day, it definitely helps take some of the boredom
Yeah.
out of having fun, just having a conversation, getting to escape for an hour, and
yeah,
Sure. I mean, that's a
nerd out
part
over
of
something
it.
you love. Yeah,
Yeah, just meeting other like-minded people and all, like you were
yes,
saying, you're going out, and it's and there's so many people out there from different backgrounds and all, and in the end of the day, we have this one thing in common, which is music, and it's an amazing thing just to go out and talk to all these amazing people that you meet, throughout the journey of being a musician, and yeah, I can, you got a lot of great stuff ahead of you, and yeah, that's awesome, and
Yeah.
I can see the excitement, like you're talking about, like going to New York for the first time and all that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Pete, we won't hold you. We know you're busy. We talked about that. We really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah,
It's
man.
been great getting
Yeah.
to know you. We hope you remember us in 2 years when you're super famous and on tour
Yeah.
with super famous bands, and you'll come back on and humor us again and talk and tell us about your experience. But for everybody, if you don't mind, wherever the thing goes down here, click for like and subscribe, and of course, if you're not already following a Pete's Diary, which you probably are, there's a bazillion people following it. If you're not following him, check him out. It's a really cool channel. It's very inspiring.
And look out for his new record coming out as well.
And his new
Yeah.
record, Pete's Diary.
And what is the date? The date of that, Pete? The date the record comes out?
So the album's called Keep On Rockin'. It'll be coming out June 14th.
June 14th.
Awesome.
Yep.
Next,
You heard it here.
the teaser for the next single. The next song coming out is the song "Keep On Rockin'." That's going to be coming out May 3rd, so not this Friday, but the next one. So
Right.
the first teaser, I'm sure the pre-save link will be available whenever this goes up. But the teasers are starting Wednesday, so like a few more days. So that'll be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Nice. Good. Everybody, check him out. Buy his album. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Cheers.